Greetings Internet, DDA here, and I'm just super excited for the new Perfection set that has come out. I've done a lot of playtesting in the past few days, and I just love all the new cards that have come out and all the new decks that are viable, including this one. So without further ado, let's start my first Set 5 Perfection deck list video, Black Devious Trunks Sword Beatdown. So let's just scan over the list real quick. So if you've been watching my other Devious Trunks videos over the past couple sets, you'll notice that this deck list is extremely different. It plays a lot more like a set 1 or 2 Trunks deck, where you're going to be doing a lot more controlling and beats rather than going for the anger beatdown. Obviously this is not an anger beatdown deck, it doesn't play very much anger. Alright, so let's get started and talk about the attacks. So these are the attacks that we're going to run. A few less attacks than my previous versions of Black Trunks. This is about 30 attacks. We're running at about 23 physical attacks and about 6 energies. So about 30 attacks. So it's about 10 less attacks than my previous versions of Black Trunks, so you can definitely see that it's more control, it's more of a control variant. You're going to have more cards in your deck that are non-attacking, you know, setups and events. So we'll just start off here with the icing on the cake, the creme de la creme of Beatdown. I've had a lot of people message me online and ask me, you know, hey DDA, would you consider this a staple card? You know, I don't have I'll Dig Your Grave. Do I need I'll Dig Your Grave? For physical beatdown, it's really hard for me to say. I mean, it shuts off prevention. Not only does it shut off prevention, it's a counter to 18, it does high damage, it does 7 and 1 with the Devious Mastery. So if you're playing a style that doesn't have access to cards that can easily shut off prevention, like Red has a lot of cards that shut off prevention, but if you're not playing one of those styles, then Black especially, I would say this would be a staple in Black. Black beatdown, yeah. So try to get them. Card that Trunks got in set 5 that basically makes this deck is Dashing Sword Attack, the best card that Trunks got in set 5. Physical attack costing 1 stage, you know, that kind of blows, but it's alright. Your opponent's MP loses 2 stages, so that is crazy powerful because it's an immediate effect. So not only are you gonna, it doesn't matter if your opponent blocks this or what he has in his hand, he's taking 2 damage on his MP no matter what. It can actually do damage if he's at 0. He will discard cards from his life deck, it's not to a minimum of 0. As well as this is, lowering 2 stages is actually gonna increase the damage of this own attack, playing this own attack. Because he's lowering 2, so you're reducing him on the AT chart. So this is probably one of the highest damaging attacks in the deck. Not only that, but it also tutors out a card that you can use. One of 2, either it's a styled or named card with sword in the title. So either Trunks Sword Slash or Black Empowered Sword Slash. Trunks Sword Slash, of course, being standard for Trunks, really strong AT+4 attack. Banish 6 cards, possibly using the hit effect to make your next styled energy attack unstoppable. You may actually be using this unstoppable energy in this version. We do play some energies, including Black Empowered Sword Slash. When this card came out in set 4, I really thought it was great. It's a solid 5 life card, so 6 and 1 with the Mastery as well as Endurance. The main thing that I like about it though is if it hits, your opponent reveals a random card from his hand and places that card on top of his life deck. So it actually generates card advantage for you. Like you gain some card advantage over your opponent. You're taking a card straight out of his hand. So that could be really devastating depending, especially if we're talking about later combat. You've already used your Mastery to take out one of his dead cards that he didn't want anyway. Now it's at the end of combat. Now he only has 1 or 2 cards left in his hand, and Black Empowered Sword Slash is just going to show its true power. Moving on, we got Black Refusal. I upped this from 2 copies to 3 copies in this version because not only do we play a lot more setups and drills in this version, but board control is becoming more and more relevant in the metagame. Orange is a thing. Orange drill control is a huge threat, as well as most red decks are playing drills. Saiyan has a really strong control variant. just board control is becoming a huge deal. So I'm just maxing out at 3 copies of Black Refusal. I've probably used this strongly twice every game. So mainly I do that with this guy right here, Trunks level 3. So if I need at any point, if I don't like their board, I'll just grab Black Refusal from my discard pile. Usually I'll have one in there. And that's the main fuel to this deck, this level 3 right here. So you have level engines in this deck, and we'll talk about those later. But your main goal is to jump from the 1 to the 2 and then immediately to 3 and just sit on this level the whole game in Toolbox. Just Toolbox your discard pile, pulling the answers you need at the times that you need them. So moving on here, we got Black Enraged Assault. This wasn't in my first version of the deck, but it quickly got added in because I realized it fit the theme of the deck very well. I found that I was actually stripping a lot of the cards from my opponent's life deck with things like Black Searching Technique and Black Scout Maneuver. So I wanted to add to that with a nice strong physical attack since this is a beatdown deck. This is like a beatdown control card. It's like you get both in one, as well as it has endurance. And this deck just is really lacking in that department. That one trait from my Black Anger Trunks that I liked was it had almost 40 endurance. And I always felt like really safe when taking damage. But this deck has close to 0. So I just really hate taking damage, and just that 1 endurance on this card just really helps curb out, maybe save yourself 1 critical damage effect when you really need it. 2 copies of Sinister Choke, just a really strong card, really great for sealing the game against control decks. A lot of people are saying that this card is also a staple card. It'd be hard for me to argue against that. I mean, it's 5 life cards unpreventable, so close to critical damage. It's a stoppable Krillin's Destructo Disc that everyone can use. It's just really great against blue and orange. And just really great for the late game seal against like Namekian when you know it's going to be unstoppable. It does 6 and 1. You're going to crit, maybe crit ball 7, do like 9 damage with this attack unstoppable. So really great for just, pushing out the final damage you need. Heroic Dashing Punch is growing on me very quickly. It is just such a hard counter to Namekian decks. My gosh, just the banishing combined with the stage locking and prevention of anger gain. Black's main problem in the previous sets was it just had terrible anger control. And this is one of the cards that Black got in set 5 that really helped with that. Not only that, I mean, if you play Saiyan style, you know how strong Saiyan Gut Kick is. Skipping and being able to do 2 physical attacks in a row to your opponent can just lock them out of the combat and be just crippling to like a Krillin or a Yamcha or 20 deck. So these are like this is the power board here, the power board attacks, and then you got your toolbox over here. You got your toolbox that I play low copies because I just want these as options in my deck, mainly for the level 3. So my toolbox cards, I got 1 Devastating Blow, just for the Namekian matchup, for the extra banishing and anger control. If I'm playing like a red Enraged and I really just need to continuously lower their anger, I could just cycle it with a level 3. And that's what the toolbox is for. This is what it's for. Black Defensive Burst. I mean, I want this card in here for the Turles matchup. Turles scares me, and I don't want to take a bunch of physical attacks to the face, so Black Defensive Burst. 2 Black Chin Kicks, just shut down ally decks. Black, any Ginyu deck, Saiyan Godku. Ginyu hates this card. If you pull this card first turn against Tag Team Ginyu, you can pretty much rest assured that you're going to be winning that game. So really strong against allies, and then possibly gaining you a level. This deck does have a few anger cards. It has the Heroic Dashing Punch. It has the single copy of Devastating Blow. It also has Black Swirl, which I really like, just to have it sit in my discard pile and then be able to use my level 3 if I know they stacked something in their hand with ball 7, if they visiting, if I just was able to see their hand with my level 2, which is where this card is super strong on. It's basically like a Confrontation that does damage as long as you name it correctly. And that, I mean, Confrontation, if Confrontation did 4 life cards of damage, I think the game would be broke. So, Black Energy Web, just, you know, hey, you know, it's like Black Defensive Burst Sister. Is that a woman? I don't know, some kind of alien. I think that's Kui. But yeah, Black Defensive Burst Sister, Black Energy Web, doing 7 and 1, locking out energy attacks. They're not expecting the energies, especially other energy decks. I'll be trying to stage lock them all game, and then like mid-game or late game, I'll just throw out a random Black Energy Web against them and lock them out of an entire combat. Black Teamwork as a single copy card has just shown me the power of this card. I probably won more games or swung more games with this single copy of Black Teamwork in my deck than I have with any other card in the game. It destroys cards to a max of 10 with everyone runs Endurance. Everyone runs Endurance. So this is going to be effective against everyone. It's going to destroy anywhere from 5 to 10 cards. You know, it becomes like a, you know, an 8 to 13 damage attack. Really, really strong. Will steal you games. So that's the attacks that we're running. So now we're going to talk about the events and blocks. I already know what you're saying, Internet. DDA, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're only running 7 blocks in this Black Trunks deck? Well, yeah, that's right. I'm only running 7 blocks. I did try more blocks. I did. I ran about 12 blocks in the first version of this deck. I tried out Upward Dodge, and I was trying some other energy blocks. I think I tried out Adaptation and you know, things like that. I didn't find that they were really giving me the value that I wanted. I also had in Trunk Slam in the first version, which is why I played the more blocks. But it just never lined up. It never felt like it was giving me anything. And I really, especially when it comes to blocks, I like my blocks to have Endurance. Because Endurance is a defensive characteristic, and blocks are defensive innately. So let's put some defense on the defense, okay? So Black Swipe, I mean, we're running the standard block setup for Black, I feel. Best Black block, energy block, Black Swipe, you know it. Fits the Banish theme, has Tomb Endurance, Time is a Warrior's Tool. No explanation needed. Black Finger Block, great for stage generation. One of the best physical blocks in the game, hands down. And this deck is going to need those stages now that it plays energy attacks. So we got our events here. We got Overwhelming Power, running this at a single copy. With Black Refusal at 3 copies and us being able to just tutor that at any time. I only wanted to run this at 1 copy, but this is probably the most meta-changing card that has been released in Set 5. It's so healthy for the game, I feel, because it's just constantly a threat against control decks now. It just gives Beatdown something against them. It gives every deck just another answer to the board, and it's just great. So 1 copy. 2 Black Scout Maneuvers. You know, a lot of people are afraid of a lot of different personalities right now, and being some of the new ones, Cell and Yamcha. You know, if you're afraid of Cell, you're afraid of Yamcha, you got this Black Scout Maneuver, you're playing Cell Namekian, name Leaping Kick first turn. You're playing, or name Cell Style if you really, or Cell's Draining Attack. He'll only have 2 copies in his deck, but that Cell's Draining Attack is basically an instant level for him, so that's a really powerful card. If you're playing against Yamcha, name his block, Yamcha's Rescue. Destroy banish all of those in his deck and just remove his ability to randomly end combat on you. So really great card. I feel like this card is going to see more and more play in this Set 5 meta. So if you're afraid of the new personalities, hey, play Black. Black Scout Maneuver. Black Reflection, I love this card. I've been playing it a lot in Set 1 and 2. And then I kind of went away from it in the later sets, but now I'm back on it. Your level 1 and level 2 banishes cards from your opponent's discard pile. And the level 2 actually searches out, so you can actually just choose any card in your discard pile, any attack that you would want to play, and use it. This card is just straight card advantage. Chances are, you're playing blue, you're going to use Blue Lunge. You're going to use Blue Terror. You're playing Roshi. You're going to use his Back Strike. You're going to, there's so many good cards in the game. You know, Saiyan Body Blow for you know, your Tree of Might to place that into play, or elbow drop, or just do do dashing punch into gut kick into another dashing punch, and just there's tons of crazy stuff you can do with this card. So just combo out, play Black Reflection. I do play it at 2 copies because I found that I was drawing it too much early. But it's so powerful that I've really been considering adding in 3 copies, adding the 3rd copy back in. But for now, it's going to stick at 2. Confrontation is at 2 copies right now. I'm not sure if I would play Confrontation over Sphere or if I would play Sphere. I don't have Sphere, but so Confrontation at 2 is what I'm sticking with right now. I also don't play it at 3 because I lost the synergy with the new level 2, the 8-stage physical, because I could like fish out a block and then just pound them with the 8-stage physical, but I don't have attacks on any of my personality powers anymore. So therefore, I need to be careful and very meticulous about the events that are in my hand during combat. I need to make sure that I'm actually pushing out some damage, not just sitting back and doing nothing. Trunks Sword Stance is, you know, obviously the main leveling engine of this deck. You're gonna fish it out. You're gonna get it with the aggressive sword drill, and obviously this is the main reason we are playing these 2 levels. You're gonna be able to look at your top cards, or well, your top cards, name a card, and then level. This, and I said this on the forum. This card was good enough in the old sets to include in your deck, but the thing that people always talked about, they were like, you know, you lose a card in your hand, you know, you gain a level, but that's it. Like, then you're down a card and the only thing you have is a level over your opponent. It was still good enough to play though. It was still strong enough because you gained a whole level. Now you can actually generate this card into your hand. It's not card disadvantage anymore. It's a free level, people. Trunks Sword, free level. So now let's go over the planning cards. So these are the planning cards that we're running. And you can see that there are a fair number of planning cards, about 15 planning cards. So this is more than you would see in just a straight aggro beats deck, because this is a control beats deck. So we're going to start out here with a card that I really hated that I dropped from my original Black Trunks build. You know, I had to drop a lot of the non-anger gaining cards from my Trunks build in order to actually in order to actually get up in levels, like get to the level 4. So I had to drop most of the non-anger cards like this one, but it's so spectacular. So I'm so happy that I got to work it into this version. Every time this card drops on the field, you know you have an advantage over your opponent. You know, first turn against orange, you know, pick off Time is a Warrior's Tool and the Burning Stance Aura, Physical Block Drill. You know, just always take out Time is a Warrior's Tool, take out their key combo cards. You know, against Ginyu, take out 2 of his allies. This card just does anything for you. It takes out 2 of your opponent's best cards in the game, and the cards that you really don't want to see him ever draw. So, really good. I know I'm always at an advantage when I put one of those down. If anyone ever asks you why you play Black Trunks, you should just pull out this card and have them read it. Black Discovery. I said earlier that Black was really lacking in the anger control department, and this card just takes Black Trunks and say, hey, bro, you don't got to worry about no MPPV. Use when you're in combat, name 2 different cards, destroy the top 2 cards of your life deck to destroy the top 2 cards of your opponent's life deck. The cards you name are destroyed, advance or lower your MP1 level, and then you may advance or lower your opponent's MP1 level. So you can actually, it's a 2-level swing. You can actually level yourself and de-level your opponent. Crazy. And not only that, but if you're actually on level 2, you can look at their top 4 and decide, it doesn't say, you know, it has to be your cards that you named. You can name the 2 best cards in your opponent's top and destroy those. So you can actually gain so much advantage with this card. Destroy your opponent's top 2 best cards, you know, level yourself, de-level him. I'm playing this at 3 copies right now. I want them in play at all times. Black Declaration, only playing it at 2 copies because I have, you know, the Overwhelming Power, I have the Refusals, I felt I didn't need 3 anymore. This is still in here though for the endurance, as well as its effect on Dragon Ball control. Ball 6 first turn really is hard to recover from. This deck does have answers for that. It plays energy attacks, so we can just crit that way. But it'd be much better just to play down a Black Declaration, shuffle the Ball 6 into their life deck, and not have to deal with it on the field. Because, you know, if you crit it, they can just crit it back. 2, Visiting the Past. You know, there are some beatdown decks that cannot play this card, like Red Ruthless, you know, really strong aggro decks. But this is not one of those decks. This is, like I said, it's a control beatdown deck. So you're going to want your discard pile as an option. It basically gives you another level 3 ability. Heroic Plan has just been able to, you know, search out anything that I want at the time that I need it. Now I can either get Tree of Might to push out extra damage, get, you know, some drill searching going. I can get a Black Discovery if I just want to start leveling. Or I can get an aggressive Sword Drill to do the same. Or I can just grab a Black Searching Technique to banish 2 cards that I really don't want to see. Really great card. Been adding great value to the deck. Tree of Might. Oh, and I forgot to mention, now that we're talking about Tree of Might, you're going to say I'm crazy again, people. There's no Black Smoothest Drill in this deck. This deck plays 3 drills, no Black Smoothest Drill. Well, there's a couple reasons for that, and one of them is Tree of Might. And being that this card is banished when you control a style drill, I don't want that. So, and I want the Tree of Might so I can tutor out these drills, these freestyle drills. Combination Drill has been showing me how good of a card it really is, and I should have started using it earlier. You know, especially against orange, because you can enter if you have Tree of Might attached. You can enter on them, grab Combination Drill, kill their focusing, open with Black Refusal, kill your Combination Drill, and then kill their two key drills that they have in play. So very strong plays with Combination Drill. And as well as, you know, Tree of Might possibly getting you aggressive Sword Drill in play. You're not going to be able to use it the turn if you get it with Tree of Might because you already searched your life deck. But you can use it next combat, or you can just use it for the non-preventable named attacks. You only have one named attack in the deck, the Sword Slash, but that's okay. Usually this drill is not going to stay on the field for very long. Usually you're just going to play it and then just grab Trunks Sword Stance when entering and just level and discard it. So that's one of the main reasons why we don't play Smoothest Drill in this deck. It's just going to turbo level, so while I wanted the card advantage, I like card advantage, this deck has enough options for card advantage with the Sword Drill, with the level 3 power just with the Toolbox, and then with Dashing Sword Attack that I didn't really feel the extra drills and the extra, you know, non-combat fodder was necessary in this deck. So that's it for the list. So now let's go over some of the bench cards that I wanted to include but didn't quite make the cut. So these are the bench cards that, you know, I wanted to include, I've been thinking about including, but just didn't quite make the cut yet. Starting off, and hey look, I even ordered them in order that of importance. Starting off here with Clash of Wills. You know, it's Aura Clash. It levels you and the opponent. We have I'll Dig Your Grave. That is a hit effect though. This deck doesn't get to the level 4. It can easily get to the 3. You'll get to the level 3 in most games with 3 discoveries and 2 stances. But it really doesn't have a way to get to the 4. The anger it'll generate just won't be there. So I thought of playing Clash of Wills just as a way to get to the 4 and push out that extra damage. So I'm considering it. Optic Blast, really just the cream of the crop in terms of Dragon Ball control, and Ball 6 and Ball 7 are always serious threats to this deck. I hate when Ball 7 gets dropped on me late game, and I'm itching to steal it back. And Optic Blast is probably the best ways to steal Ball 7. You're getting a 6-card mill out of it, so really, really strong. Plus 2 endurance. The main reason why I didn't include it to begin with is because I want to kind of limit the energy attacks that I'm playing. It's banished after use, so it's only a 1-shot, so I'd only add in 1 copy to begin with. I wasn't sure if I really needed it, but time will tell if I need the extra Dragon Ball control. Heroic Jab really interested me. It's just a really cool card and extra board control. If it hits, you can shuffle a non-personality, non-mastery card in play to its owner's life deck. So that's including like attached cards or cards floating in play. Like you could shuffle in like a double strike or an attack that's staying into play multiple times. Or, you know, obvious stuff like a setup or drill or Dragon Ball. There's so many good things you can do with this card. You can also stop a personality power. So like a Ginyu or an ally power, or even sell level 3, which, you know, not cool. I don't want to take 7 life cards on Preventable. I told you I was messing around with some several blocks in this deck. The one that stands above the rest is Black Corruption. I feel like if I added another block into this deck, it would be Black Corruption because its potential against Namekian late game, or most decks late game, is really, really high. You can just banish 2 cards off the top of their life deck, and, you know, as their deck thins and as it gets smaller, you know, they have 6 or 5 Dragon Balls left in their life deck and they only have 15 cards left. Chances are you're going to be able to hit a Dragon Ball with this and remove an entire victory condition from them. So really strong. I really considered adding this card as like a 2 of, but the main reason I haven't is lack of endurance. Also, I don't really need the anger myself, although the lowering 2 anger is nice. Hey, I told you I was crazy for not playing Smooth This Drill, but I would be even more crazy if I didn't at least include this in my bench. So Black Smooth This Drill, if I did play it, I played it 2 copies and not 3. Just, you know, the massive leveling. I didn't want to play too many setups and drills, so that's why I didn't ultimately add it in. But card advantage is card advantage, so you can't really go wrong there. It's an extra card in your hand. But you're only really usually going to just get 1 card out of it. You'll typically level at almost every combat until you get to the 3, so chances are you're just going to be discarding this. Also, it's actually a good target for combination drill for the opponent. So if you play your combination drill, he can use your combination drill to then discard this drill. So not the best. Also consider Dr. Brief, but the problem in Black, of course, is that Black has no ally support. So your only choice would be to just play Overpowering attack and hope you can like cycle Overpowering with the level 3. I'm not really sure if you should be doing that, but the main thing that interests me with this guy is its card advantage, and it's actually card advantage that you won't lose when you level. So this guy combos amazingly with the level 1 and level 2 power because you can just pick the card that you want to draw. I really consider him, he's so strong. There's so many critical damage effects floating around right now, and Overwhelming Power can actually crit outside of combat in some decks, or when entering combat. So if they can like VTP for Overwhelming Power into their hand, and then just crit Brief Ally when entering combat before you can even draw that'll just be devastating to you. So I just don't want to run into a situation where I just get crippled by playing a card. So that's it for my bench cards. So now let's go over the general strategy and how you're going to use this deck. So as far as the general strategy goes, you know, you're going to start out level 1. And the great thing about this deck is because we don't play, you know, 40 attacks like the anger variant of this deck played, we play a fair amount of setups, is that you don't have to be aggressive. If you watch the old videos that I did, you know, I said a lot, you know, you want to put pressure on the opponent, you want to enter every combat, you want to make sure you stage lock them, you want to, you know, make sure you out level them, and you really use Trunks' power level to your advantage. And that's true in this deck, but this deck also plays a lot of flat damage attacks and some more energy attacks. You know, you got Refusal, you got Heroic Dashing Punch, you have energies, as well as you have the setups to play down so that you can actually generate a field while just sitting back and waiting for the opponent to enter. I would say that this deck, its field could be comparable to Orange. Not better, but comparable. So if you see like a really passive deck, you know that you don't have to enter. So, and that's not saying that you shouldn't, but you don't have to. You have the option. if you feel like you're not drawing the hands that you want, that you're not getting the cards that you want, then you don't feel like you have to put in early game pressure with this deck like you did with the Anger deck, because this deck does not rely on early game pressure. It is definitely a mid to late game ceiling deck where you're just going to kind of control every aspect of the game and then just slowly attrition the win. or possibly run away with beats, but really I've not run away with beats in a game with this deck yet. It's just mainly been, getting some good combats in there, getting some, do some 15 damage here, do a few black scouting maneuvers, stuff like that. So, but if you see a passive personality or an energy beat personality, like if you see Krillin, if you see Piccolo, or Yamcha, or Master Roshi, you're going to want to probably be aggressive and try to stage lock them. Keep that in mind. But at the same time, don't enter on a suboptimal hand because you don't have to. So it's really easy for you to jump up to the level 2. Very, very easily, obviously, just using one of the 2 cards that are our level engines in the deck, Black Discovery or Black Trunks Sword Stance. And so basically what you're going to want to do on the level 1 is once you get one of these cards in play, that's when you're going to want to start to go aggressive. So, and I'm not saying wait for this, but I'm saying if you have these in play, you can safely be aggressive. Because leveling when entering combat is immediately going to your 2 and then being able to look at your opponent's top 4 when entering combat. And that's an extremely powerful ability. This one is good early game. It's good defensively. You're going to be able to look at one extra card and be able to possibly choose that card to go into your hand. And that's a lot better than it sounds. One single card could be a Confrontation, or it could be the perfect answer to the board that you need. Like it could be a Black Chin Kick against an allied deck, could be a Defensive Burst against Red Turles. So there's a lot of different things. That one card could just swing you the combat, so don't undervalue that single extra card. And likewise, for the level 2 going aggressive, you enter on your opponent, you get Trunks Sword Stance, you level to 2, look at your opponent's top 4, and you see that he has Time as a Warrior's Tool in his top 4. Well, certainly, you're not going to be giving that into his hand. So then, there you go, you just saved yourself Time as a Warrior's Tool combat. It's at the top of his life deck, so your first card in damage is going to kill it, and then you can just either Mastery or banish it. So great, 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 powerful, powerful advantage to go aggressive on, and I would suggest doing that, again, against certain decks. Now, if you're playing a turbo aggro deck, hyper aggressive, if you're playing Turles, if you're playing Saiyan, we're going to start seeing a lot more Saiyan guys, and there are some control variants, mainly Raditz. I've seen some Nappa stage lock decks, but they're still beatdown decks. They're not really control. But if you see Saiyan, you're gonna start seeing more Saiyan. If you see like Red Ruthless, don't really enter on them. There's no reason for you to. You're gonna be able to set up a much more scary board than they are, with searching techniques and visiting the past and discoveries and things like that. Your board is much more scary than compared to theirs. And you always have Black Refusal to just kill what little they do set up. So again, it's going to be fairly easy for you to get to the 3, and this is the goal of the deck. This is basically a Trunks Sword Toolbox deck. Utilizing the level 3 to be able to just choose any card in your hand to play the best attack, the most optimal attack from your discard pile. And this is great because it's actually putting cards back into your life deck. So you're actually almost rejuvenating a card. You're generating cards back into your life deck. So now another great thing about this level, and when you get to it you want to do this, is that these 3 cards essentially become unusable or semi-useless when at this level. Depending. Obviously the Sword Drill can have some use if you would get like an attack when entering. But the great thing about it is if you draw into them late game, if you draw into a Sword Stance, or if you happen to draw into a Discovery on the defense, you can just use the level 3 power to make an unusable card into a extremely strong attack that's in your discard pile. You can set up to stage lock your opponent, and of course the best way to do that would be to use Heroic Dashing Punch. Try to make them skip. do some damages to them, and try to knock them to 0. So I've often done that, and and this is, like I said before, a really hard counter to Namekian, so a really great card. Also, I've done this combo so many times. Just level 3 dashing sword attack over and over again. Granted, it's banished after use, yes, but you know, you do this 2 times and you generate an extra attack or 2, and you can really start to pull ahead of your opponent. Are you facing an ally deck? Grab Black Chin Kick every combat. I mean, like I said before, Ginyu really wishes that you didn't play this card. So remember you have this card and play it to hard counter ally decks. You can literally just cycle these 2 lockout cards. You only play 1 copy, but that's okay. You can just cycle these 2 lockout cards every combat with the level 3. If you need them, if you feel like if you're facing a hard energy beats deck, you were able to strip all his blocks out early game with searching techniques and scout maneuvers and enraged assaults, you know he has no blocks left, enter with Black Energy Web every combat. Or if you're facing Master Roshi and you just kind of want to I'll dig your grave every combat, no prevention for you. No prevention for you. You just said, DDA, these cards are unusable. Well, if you run the old 3, they would be usable. You could then just get to 4. But then you have to ask yourself the question, what's better? Being able to choose the perfect answer or doing lots of damage? Not sure which. Because in a deck that runs, 15, 16, close to 20 planning cards, and if you want to go aggressive, it's hard to if you draw a setup. It's hard to enter a card down against certain decks. So ultimately, I decided, I didn't even try the old 3 yet in this deck variant. Ultimately, I decided I didn't even want to try it because this level 3 toolboxing is just the way I want to play this deck. But if you find something different in your playtesting, and I'm sure you will, and I'm sure that if you play this deck Perceptive, which I've been contemplating and I've been maybe thinking about trying myself, but if you play this deck Perceptive, it might be better just to turbo up to the 4 because you don't have a modifier on your mastery. So I hope you guys liked my first Set 5 deck list video. I'm really excited. This deck is super fun to play. Super fun to play. As I played with it more and more, it grew on me. I played about 4 matches with it. I lost all 4 matches. Then I made major changes to the deck, 10, 15 card changes to the deck. Won my next 5 games in a row. Last night I came in second at my local tournament with this deck. I'm telling you guys, Black Trunks in any form, Devious, Perceptive, Tier 1 deck, absolutely. No question in my mind. I have no bad matchups now. This deck has, it has bad matchups. Like I would call Yamcha Yamcha Blue would definitely be a bad matchup. However, I still have answers. I still have ways around that. I still have advantages. There's not a deck in this format right now that I would be afraid of facing. Strong matchups for this deck, Android 20, hands down. For many, many, many reasons. If I see Android 20, I'm just happy because I know that I can just give him dead cards over and over again all day. Most Android 20 decks play a ton of planning cards, so I will capitalize on that with these levels of Trunks, as well as banishing cards that they would get back with 20's domination, that they would just get, destruction, as well as with destruction, I have scout maneuvers. I have ways of removing their drills from their life deck before they even hit play. Bypass focusing drill with declaration. I have so many answers to 20, as well as de-leveling. So many answers to 20. I don't think I'll ever lose another 20 matchup game with this deck. So rate, comment, subscribe, comment in the comment section below if you tried out this deck, if you build a different variant of this deck, let me know.